Hello, everyone, and welcome to the monthly NJBIA Business Growth Roundtable. And let me introduce you to Anthony Arena, who's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on these days at NJBIA. Anthony.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Business Growth Roundtable. We all appreciate you coming. Obviously, it's a snowy day, so we're all stuck at home working. We at NJBIA are thrilled to have helped create this great initiative with such an amazing team of women. For those of you who are new to NJBIA, we are the nation's largest statewide business association, representing about 1/4 of all New Jersey employees. We offer customer development opportunities through visibility, such as our events, our magazine, our website, along with our podcast and television show. We also have other money-saving opportunities for your companies, such as our programs like payroll, our 401k solutions, our healthcare, and our training, and of course, our 24/7 HR support. So I'm Anthony Arena. I'm one of the sponsorship executives here at NJBIA. I will drop my information in the chat, and please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'd like to get to know you and your business. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to the most fabulous person, Vicki Hart, Director of Client Engagement. Thank you all and enjoy the show.
Anthony, you did a fabulous job on that pass off.
You got it. You got it.
Hello, everyone. I am Vicki Hart, Director of Client Engagement at Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a sales enablement agency that builds websites as marketing tools, develops and deploys marketing activities to drive conversions, and leverage sales automation to create and leverage efficiencies with superhero powers. Yes, I believe every single organization and every person has superhero powers. Ours are generating quality leads, shortening sales cycles, and making sales teams more effective. So if you are looking to grow your business and increase your market share, or you have an overworked marketing team and you have new initiatives that you just can't get out the door because there's just too much to get done, or in the spirit of this conversation today, you are looking to exit your business in the next few years and you are relying solely on referrals, we should have a conversation. So I am going to now, having friends is one of the most amazing things, and friends that are sponsors are even more amazing because we get to grow together. And today I would like to thank our sponsor, Kim Luthi. She's the Director of Wealth Planning at Synthesis Wealth. And we want to thank Kim because of her continued support for the Business Growth Roundtable. Kim is celebrating, and I can't even wrap my head around this number, her 35th anniversary as a steadfast advocate for her clients. And she is passionate about helping her clients navigate their journey. So as a certified financial planner, Kim focuses on helping clients prepared for the unexpected. And let me tell you, if this world teaches us anything can happen at any time. So we love Kim for that. And Kim runs the Vision Network. And this helps women elevate their goals and provide clarity by creating vision boards. Kim is hosting her Galentine's event. It was supposed to be today, but if you're in the Northeast region where the snow is coming down, Kim had to reschedule. So mark your calendars for February 20th. It's her Galentine event. It's a great opportunity to build clarity and vision around your business and help you reach your goals. And not only is it a great time to network, you get to indulge in her chocolate and wine bar. Hello, ring-a-ding-ding. Those sounds like amazing opportunities, and a more opportunity to connect with other go-givers. So Kim, thank you so much for supporting us and educating our audience on how to one, find your vision and see it and have clarity, and two, how to plan for the unexpected. And our second sponsor, I can't say enough about Cal Thomas and Sandler Training. I myself am a Sandler grad. Our entire team at Paradigm Marketing and Design are Sandler grads. Cal is the president of Sandler Training in Morristown. They are a sales, management, and customer service training and coaching organization. They are amazing. I always like to say it's kind of, they teach you in the art of the no sale sale. And I am grateful for the education that I've received through Sandler. It has changed my life. And Cal has actually worked with C3, right? Donna, right here with her team, and has created a significant amount of change for all of our organizations. We've closed more business faster and easier. And I can say that my personal, my close ratio went from 30% to 60%. Thanks to the Cal and his process at Sandler. It is an amazing organization. Cal, make sure that Cal's going to drop his link for you, and please make sure you take the opportunity to meet with Cal. Donna, I'm going to pass the baton back to you.
Why, thank you, fabulous Vicki Hart. So I am Donna Miller, Chief Visionary Officer at C3 Workplace and founder of Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting. And for nearly 30 years, I can't believe this October it's going to be 30 years, and you'll be hearing way more about that. We've been helping companies accelerate growth by providing support and advisory services around operations, business development, and finance. We allow growing teams and business owners to focus on that which drives their business forward. In other words, they work smarter, not harder. Our clients know that by building systems that are efficient, connected, and executable, either by us or by you, they're laying the foundation for a company that will run and grow without them involved in every little detail. And that is called self-scaling. So if you'd like to build a self-scaling company, give myself, or later on in Q&A, Kelly Lauro, who is our senior account manager, will also be on the webinar. Either one of us are happy to have a conversation with you to see how we might help you figure out where you want to be and how we can help you to get there. So before I introduce our speaker, a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording this. We will allow time at the end for Q&A. However, I will say, because we typically have a pretty large crowd, I would ask you to use the Q&A piece of Zoom as opposed to the chat. The chat gets a little unwieldy. And speaking of chat, this is virtual networking, people. Introduce yourself, tell us why we need to meet with you, and see if you can't set a goal to not only learn from Scott and put something into action, but also who do you want to connect with after this event? Who did you see on the event that might make a good connection for you? So with that, let me bring Scott Weintraub to the stage. Come on the stage, Scott. There he is, who, by the way, is in sunny Florida. Nice. We're already jealous. Scott is going to tell you all about himself, and he's going to impart lots of great wisdom with all of you. But he is founder and co-founder of multiple multi-million-dollar companies, has co-authored books, has written so many articles, was a finalist for Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year. And I am going to hand the stage to you, Scott. We thank you for being here. And I, of course, am, as a business growth consultant who's often working with companies and business owners to help them find the door, will be paying close attention. Thanks so much. And Scott, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask everybody, think for a second, for all of you who started your own company, why did you start your own company? And in interactive sessions, I'll get answers, but the answers vary. But for me, it was I got laid off for the second time, and I just felt like a failure that I had gotten laid off. I was mad. I was sad about the situation, but mostly I felt like it was out of my control. So I was kind of sick of corporate. So I actually started a franchise hair salon. I grew it. We were top 1% of the country. It was $1 million business, so not huge, but what it really gave me is the confidence to go do an even bigger business years later. So, which was key, because in 2007, I got laid off for the third and thankfully final time. So in 2007, I don't know if the slides are moving forward here.
I'm still seeing the first one, Scott.
Okay, in 2007, I started a company, Healthcare Regional Marketing. We changed the name eventually to Relevate. And we were very, very fortunate. The company grew for the first 3 years, more than doubled, almost doubled every single year. And I remember one of my friends saying to me, hey, what are you going to do when the company stops growing? And I was thinking, it's not going to stop growing. We're going to just keep going and going and going. And actually, you'll hear later, it did stop growing, and there were dips, etc. But in January of 23, I sold 2/3 of the company for quote unquote life-changing money, but it hasn't changed my life. I still drive an old car. I still own a percentage of the company. I'm still on the board. I still consult with them, but I'm out of the day-to-day operations. So you can see here by 2010, we were in business for just over 3 years. We were $15 million in revenue. What it doesn't say here is of that $15 million of revenue, 11 million of it was from one customer, Pfizer. The company I started did a pharmaceutical marketing. So our customer base was eventually 29 of the 30 biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world hired us. Pfizer was one. In 2010, they were, over $11 million of our $15 million in revenue. There's an actual Mexican saying for that. It's called no bueno, and it was not a good situation. So I'm not sure if anyone's ever lost their biggest customer, but it's a bad situation. Again, you kind of feel like a failure. At least I did. And what happened is I had to lay people off from work. And the tough part about that is it wasn't their fault. It was really my fault. My fault that I didn't diversify the company, that they lost their job. So it was a terrible feeling. But you can see in this chart, in 2011, 10, 11, we lost our biggest customer. We went from about $15 million down to $6 million. But it's still a pretty good business. $6 million, it was a high margin business. By 2015, the company's pretty flat at, you can see $6, $7, $8 million. But I was sick and tired of being flat. I felt like we were stuck. I felt like I was playing not to lose versus to win. And it just wasn't fun anymore. And when I step back and think about, hey, what did I not like? It was really three things. One is I was frustrated by my inability to grow and scale the business. Number two, I was mad at the lack of accountability within the organization. I'd ask people to do something and it didn't happen. And finally, I was just burnt out. Like, we didn't have processes in place, so I was working crazy hours. I was working all the time. So I asked Kelly to set up a poll question. Which of these three would be your biggest issue right now, if any? You can leave it blank if none. Is it growth? I can't figure out how to grow the business, scale the business. Number two, accountability. Hey, how do I hold people more accountable? How do I set a culture of accountability? Or third, hey, we need processes in place so I'm not the center of everything and I'm not working crazy, crazy hours. So pick one of those three and I'll use the answers later in the talk.
Scott, are you seeing the results? Just curious.
I am not.
Okay. All right. Well, the majority of our people are struggling with growth and scaling. 72%.
Okay. Got it. So what did I do? So I decided, hey, I'm going to operationalize or professionalize the business. So I read tons of books. I'm not sure if you guys ever seen these books: Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, Traction, Metronomics, Scaling Up. I read all these books figuring out, hey, what's the best way for me to really put processes in place so I can scale the company. So we decided to go with the Rockefeller Habits. And frankly, in hindsight, they're all really good systems. I picked one. I thought it was best for me. It might not be best for everybody. And what happened is when we did that, the company grew. The company grew a ton. So you can see we started implementing the Rockefeller Habits in 2015. My last year in the company, we went from $7 million to $70 million. So fantastic growth. So people ask a ton of questions about this. Oh my gosh, how'd you grow so much so fast? It was an old business that was flat. the best part, or a better question than how, is like, is it replicable? Can I implement this in my business? And I believe the answer is yes. So I stepped back and said, hey, what are the 5 things I did to really grow the business? And there was a team. I said, what are the 5 things we did to grow the business? Number 1 is we had a very rigorous, we spent a lot of time on, hey, what are our goals? What is our planning process? Make sure everybody knew, hey, this is what we're trying to do. So that was the first thing. Second thing, we spent a lot of time on culture. At the beginning, people would quit quite a bit. By 2015, once we really implemented this, people didn't leave. People really liked working there, and they would work harder. So culture was a big thing. Third was internal communications. Like, everybody knew what everybody else was working on. There were obviously departments, but there weren't any silos. So everybody knew what everyone was working on, and we had a system, a rhythm for internal communications. Accountability, the thing I talked about earlier. We implemented systems where everybody became more accountable, people were held accountable, and accountability rose. As it rose, projects got implemented, and we executed well. And finally, we became much more externally focused. For a while, as we grew, we were internally focused. Hey, how are we going to work better with Department A, Department B, Department C? We switched and said, hey, all that matters is what our customers think, and we became externally focused. So Kelly, if you can ask the second polling question, because there's probably not enough time for us to go through all 5 of these. I've done this presentation in an hour and a half. So in 45 minutes, we'll get through a couple, 3 of them. I'll make them each a little shorter, but what's most interesting to you? Is it, hey, how we do a I almost saw the results. They're gone. Strategy, goals and planning, culture, internal communications, accountability, or being externally focused?
Okay, we have that poll up, and people are starting to respond. So we'll give them a minute. Not surprising, though, it's definitely leaning towards strategy, which I think kind of aligns with the first answer. We've got 67%
Okay, so why
of
don't
people.
so
Secondly is accountability, 39%.
okay. I'm no math major, but 67 plus 39 seems it's over 100. But we'll talk about strategy first and then accountability.
Great.
So all right, strategy. So if I was going to ask your leadership team, hey, what is the number 1 priority that we got to get done in the next 90 days to really drive the company to hit its annual and long-term goals? If there were 5 people on your leadership team, would I get 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 answers? We're not going to pull that. But often people give me an answer more than 1, which is obviously bad. The real purpose of strategy, goals, planning, in my opinion, is just to make sure everybody's aligned. Because if everybody's not aligned, you're not working to your maximum potential. The first thing we started with was our core purpose and core values. So, if any entrepreneurs on the call here, why did you start your company? Like, why do people hire you? And it took some introspective. A lot of times I said earlier, hey, the reason I started my company, I was sick and tired of getting laid off. Well, that's really not a good reason for people to hire you. So it's like, hey, what unique value did I think I was going to provide to the market? So for us, it was, we're going to make pharmaceutical marketing more locally relevant. And for you and people not in the pharmaceutical industry, that might not mean much, but that's what we were trying to do. You've all seen commercials on TV about a product, and it's like, hey, we want to make this more interesting to people in one city of the country. So instead of saying, hey, lots of people have high blood pressure, we would say, doctor, did you know right here in Morristown, New Jersey, 82% of the people who have high blood pressure are not at their blood pressure goals. Make it more locally relevant. That's what we decided our core purpose was. And every single employee knew it. We had a monthly town hall meetings. All the employees come. There'd be a slide up on PowerPoint. It said core purpose. Call on somebody. Hey, Kelly, what's the core purpose? Ooh, that's wrong. Donna, what's the core purpose? Make pharmaceutical marketing more locally relevant. Within a month or two, every single person in the company knew what we were doing, and we used it when we hired people, and it really got us gelled again, so we're all aligned. Core values, when we started the company, it was like, hey, we want to be fun, fast, and friendly. That's what I decided. And after 3 or 4 years, I remember at a leadership team meeting, someone's like, hey, you realize like we're not fast. These are not our core values. Like that's what you want them to be, Scott, but they're not. So what we did is we asked the whole leadership team, hey, who are the best employees in the company? Everybody make a note to themselves. Who are the 3 or 4 best employees that if you were going to start a new company, these would be the people you're going to steal. So, somebody might say, hey, I like Vicky, I like Kelly, I like Donna, I like Anthony. Okay, great. Why do you like them? Tell us a story about something Donna did. Tell us a story about something Vicky did that makes you say, hey, I'm going to bring this person in. I don't want to hear about their technical expertise doing their job, something about the value. So we did that. And one story came up about this lady, Julie. And what happened is Julie's one of our employees. Lauren's another employee. Lauren and Julie are on the phone. And Lauren tells that, hey, I just got reamed out by one of our clients. It was terrible. They were yelling at me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Many of you have been in that situation. And what happens is when they hang up, Julie calls Uber Eats and has a milkshake delivered to Lauren's house. Hey, sorry, you're having a bad day. I didn't even know about this till I heard the story. And they said, hey, the reason I would bring Julie is she's a caring individual, and I want caring individuals at our company. And everyone said, that's perfect. One of our core values is going to be caring. So we had caring, accountable, by the way, positive, proactive. Those were our core values, CAPP. It was really easy to remember, which made it easy to execute. And we did that for, a whole bunch of employees and picked out those as our most important core values. Big, hairy, audacious goal. Hey, where are we going 10 years, 20 years from now? And for me, it was simple. I wanted to be a $100 million company. I was also smart enough to know that that is not going to be motivating to anybody except maybe the CFO. So again, you remember earlier I said, hey, our core purpose is make pharmaceutical marketing more locally relevant. As we talked about our BHAG, what we came up with is, hey, we want to execute local marketing in 1 million communities. So it tied back to our core purpose, but we wanted to go do our marketing, which we thought was better, in 1 million communities across the country. And we define community as, a city/disease. So going back to the blood pressure example, high blood pressure in Morristown, that's one community. High blood pressure in Cape May, that's another community. High blood pressure in Trenton, that's a third. Lung cancer in Morristown, that's a fourth. So we did that, 1 million communities. When I left, we were at 700,000 communities. So we're definitely on our way. And then the third thing, really part of the planning process, is we decided, hey, what are our top key performance indicators? What are the top 10 KPIs? And prior to this, we probably had like 25 different metrics we were measuring, and they would change all the time. And, when we implemented the habits, we had a coach, and he was like, hey, let's pick 10 that aren't going to change. They're evergreen. You're going to want to measure them forever and ever, and we can track them over time, and they're going to become, your business Bible. And hey, here's how we're doing. So we did that. It took a lot longer than I thought to come up with 10. It took weeks, actually. We came up with it, we argued, our 25 got it down to 10. Then I wanted to add one. We got to delete one, etc. But what's really good is 7 years later, when I left, we were still using 8 of the 10 that we started with. So it made me think, hey, we did a really good job. So a lot of companies have BHAGs, core values, core purpose. And I just ask, hey, how much does the newest employee know? because what we did is the newest employee was indoctrinated with this stuff day one, and they knew exactly what was happening. So last part of the strategy piece here is there's a ton on this piece of paper, I know, and I don't expect you to read it all, but the context here is I want to give you some context. So what we did every single year is, if you see it top in red, I'm not even sure if you can read it if the font's too small, but our objective was grow, relevate. That's the name of the company. Grow, relevate revenue and culture with the strategic focus on evolving practice share. That was one of our products, from a custom project to a technology-enabled product. That was our big focus for the year. That was our big objective. And then we had 3 goals, 75% repeat on that. So if a customer hires us, they're going to hire us again next year. We wanted at least 75% of that. At the time, $21 million in revenue, which was 18% growth. And ENPS, which is your employee net promoter score, how much people like working there, a measure of the culture. We wanted to get it back up to an 85. Somebody was assigned to that based on our accountability. And then for each of the goals, there was a couple, 3 strategies. For each strategy, there were specific metrics and somebody who was accountable for this. So what you'll see here, it was very, rigorous. We went through this and everybody knew what everybody else was working on. We post this up at company-wide town hall meetings. People would give updates. And one interesting thing, I think, is if you look at the second goal, $21 million in recognized revenue, the who is me, Scott Weintraub. My name's not on any of the who at the end of the specific metrics. So we finally got to the point where I wasn't accountable for any of the details. I just had the roll-up metric, which is where I wanted to go, which was frankly extremely difficult for me because I was pretty good micromanager, telling people to do their job. And I finally was able to step back, and that really helped us grow also, was my ability to step back. So that's a strategy. So we're going to jump to accountability. That was the second one people talked about. Accountability. So, if I ask, it's typically the number one. Here it was the number 2. It's typically the number one thing I hear is people are frustrated. You ask someone to do something that doesn't get done. I've used the term before. At times I felt like I'm running an adult daycare. Like I got to tell all these people what to do like they're my kids. And then I also ask people, it's like, hey, if you're unhappy with the accountability in your organization, I can't see anyone, but, think to yourself, hey, raise your hand if it's more your employee's fault, or, raise your other hand if it's more your fault. And hopefully people are smart enough to know, hey, it's likely more my fault than other people's fault for the accountability. So, step 1 is you really have to assign accountability. So if we think about that slide I just showed, the chart with the strategies and goals over in the right, actually we'll jump to it here. Over in the right, it has who's accountable for each thing, who. So, one of the things here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it says 1,000 KOLs. Those are physicians who are key opinion leaders in a key opinion leader database by the end of December 31st, and Lisa's accountable for that. So what happens is I never assigned this to anyone. We have volunteers. So the leadership team would get together and say, hey, what is some of our biggest goals for the year? And one of them was, hey, we're going to have to build this database with people in it. It's like, okay, great. We're going to build this database. And then I'd ask, hey, who wants to own this? Who on the leadership team wants to own this database? And what would happen is, Lisa would say, hey, I should own it. And we'd go through the same thing every time. Okay, that's fantastic, Lisa, you're going to own it. Are you sure you're going to be able to get this done? Yes, I'm sure I'm going to be able to get it done. Hey, you have a ton going on this year. Are you 100% positive? Yes, I'm 100% positive I'm going to get it done. And then we put Lisa's name down for it. Everybody would talk about it. Yeah, Lisa's going to do for it. And we did that for every single goal on there. And then we eventually rolled it out. For each of those goals, there was a goal for everyone in the company. So every single person in the company had 1 to 3 things they were accountable for. that all rolled up to growing Relevate. So everybody was accountable, it was very visible. It really came from an insight I got from my son. At the time, he had just graduated college. He was working at Price Waterhouse, the big accounting firm, $30 billion accounting firm. And for 2 years after college, he lived at home. So, once or twice a week, he'd eat dinner with me and my wife. And, half those times he'd tell us some story about work. And one time he tells us, hey, Price Waterhouse, they're implementing this new thing called Feedback Friday. His name is Alex. Alex, what is Feedback Friday? Oh, Feedback Friday is the stupidest thing in the world. It's like, okay, great. These guys are running a $30 billion accounting firm, and you're 22 years old. You're going to tell them, this is the stupidest thing in the world. But anyway, he goes into Feedback Friday. What it is every single Friday, you meet with your manager, and they give you feedback on how you did during the week. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go along with this. Hey, Alex, why is Feedback Friday the stupidest thing in the world? So I'm going to let you all think for a second. Why is Feedback Friday the stupidest thing in the world? So most people guess like, hey, people don't want to get a report card every single week. They don't want to hear the things they're doing bad, et cetera, et cetera. So when I asked my son, hey, why is Feedback Friday the stupidest thing ever? He tells me, hey, if I screw up, why would you wait till Friday to tell me? And he gives an example. He played soccer in high school. Mr. Smith, he would never wait till Friday. If you messed up during a game, he'd scream across the field, Alex, get your head in the game. You need to pass the ball. There was no way we waited till Friday. And it really gave me the insight that, hey, people want to have a scoreboard. They want to know how they're doing, and they want to be held accountable. So the chart I showed you earlier, we had that for every single person in the company, and everyone had to put, hey, how they're going to get it done. It was either measured by a KPI or different tasks. And if it was tasks, how much you're going to get done per week over the next 13 weeks. We did it every single quarter. And then the system we use, it's called Align software, because, this is all about getting aligned, would either be red, yellow, or green at the end of each week. And I would get a report every single week. Hey, what departments are mostly red? What departments are mostly yellow? What departments are mostly green? And it was fantastic because one of my friends told me that, hey, the biggest lever you have is making sure everyone's working on the right stuff. And this really helped us make sure everybody was working on the right stuff. And when somebody wasn't, I'd get the report. I'd say, hey, to the head of Department X, the head of Group Y, Kelly, can you tell me why, 10 people in your department are red? And Kelly would, typically find out in advance because she got the report also and knows I'm going to call her about it. Hey, Scott, I just wanted to let you know, here's the reasons why, here's what we're doing to fix it. So we had scorecards by every single department, by every single person. And then, like I said, I have monthly meetings with all the department leaders on, hey, what's going on in your department? Walk me through your plan to get everything back on green. And when we first started this, I'd say half the groups were red or yellow for the first 2 meetings, because we once a quarter we reset goals. So if we set goals January, I'd have a February and a March meeting with them, and then April we'd set new goals. So half the company was red or yellow in February and March. By the end of 9 months, a year, 80% of everybody was green, because they knew, hey, Scott's going to call us. He's going to ask a whole bunch of questions why, and the accountability just went up. People wanted me to call to find out why everyone was so green. What were they doing right? So it worked really well. And the last thing we did in terms of accountability is like, how are we going to hold the leadership team accountable? Besides those numbers you saw, is we'd send out a survey. By now we had, let's say, 100 people probably in the company, plus or minus. Send out a survey to all 100 people asking, hey, what's working, what's not working? They do that a net promoter score on a scale of 1 to 10. Would you recommend your friend come work here? On a scale of 0 to 10, excuse me, would you recommend your friend come work here? And then I'd ask, hey, how do you like working with finance? How do you like working with the marketing department? How do you like working with sales? And I put those scores on the board. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, sales got a 4.2, marketing got a 4.3, finance got a 3.8, whatever they were, we'd share them. There was a whole bunch of verbatims, which I'd share with the department managers. But the verbatims on me, I put on the slide for everyone to see. Hey, here's all I only put the negative ones. People actually said positive things also. But I put all the negative ones up on the slide. I group them together and put them, hey, I'm going to be held accountable, to you guys. So I remember reading the survey results, and somebody accused me of not being patient. And they write, a War and Peace example on how I'm not patient. They're going on and on about me being impatient. And I'm reading it at home, and I'm like boiling mad. And my wife hears me. I'm like, she's like, what's up? I said, somebody's getting fired tomorrow. I don't know who. We do these anonymous surveys. She's like, what'd they say? So I hand it to her, and she reads it. And she's like, hey, you're the most impatient person I know. This person's talking truth. You should be giving them a raise, not firing them. So I shared that. I shared the example with the whole company. Everybody laughed. And I said, hey, I'll work on it. Since starting to work on this, 5, 6 years ago, nobody's called me an extremely patient person, but I get called impatient less frequently. So I have improved. And one time, this was a really interesting one. Somebody put, hey, the company has too much focus on goals and numbers. And we were extremely focused on goals and numbers. And I remember sharing, I was like, hey, somebody put up here too much focus on goals and numbers. And, here's the details. I just want everyone to know this is not going to change. While I don't want anyone to leave the company, if this is really, really, really bothering you, this is not a good fit of a company, because we're going to be a metrics-driven company. We're going to be a goals and a number-driven company. And, that's not going to change. And I share that is because, and it wasn't just a company with Scott. I share that because out of all these company meetings, and we had, one a month for, whatever it was, 15 years. So do the math on how many meetings that was, 200 meetings. I got more positive feedback on that comment than the other 200 meetings combined. People said, hey, it was really nice to know you were super clear. Hey, this is not going to change. And now we know we move on. And again, made me realize, like, hey, people want to know what the rules are. They want to be held accountable, but they just need to know what the rules are. So accountability. So we do have some more time, so I'm going to go back. Was there a, Kelly, or was there a third winner of the survey?
Honestly, Scott, I don't know how to go back and look.
Okay. Well, let's talk about
and I'm afraid to mess something up.
Okay. So internal communications. So when I first thought about, hey, I'm going to hire someone to be a coach, I went. So what I did actually, like I said, I read these 3 books. I'm very, analytical person. I called up all 3 companies and said, hey, can you give me 3 clients who are using the system? I called 3 clients, so I'm calling 9 different people. And I decided, hey, scaling up, mastering the Rockefeller Habits, that's best for me. So I went to visit one of the clients. He's like, hey, let's meet at 8:30. And then he calls me back 2 days later. He's like, hey, why don't you get here at 8 o'clock? We have a company-wide huddle at 8:15. I'd like you to see the huddle, and then we can talk at 8:30 about, how we're implementing the system, how it's working. And, they were 20, 25-person company. And I'm thinking, an entire company gets together every single day. This is like one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. But after seeing it and after experiencing it for 7, 8 years, I realized that it's one of the smartest ideas I saw, and more importantly, experienced. And for these daily huddles, it's really simple. The bulk of it is, hey, what are the top 3 things I want to get done today? So, the 8 of us at the leadership team would go around the room. Hey, what are the top 3 things I'm getting done today? So within 10 minutes, 15 at the most, I basically knew everything that was going on in the company, all the big things going on in the company. And I was able to call somebody after the meeting, hey, tell me more about this. And also it gave me the opportunity to coach right then and there. So what would happen is, Bob would say, hey, I'm going to work on XYZ today. And I'm like, hey, Bob, today's Thursday, you're going to work on XYZ. If I remember Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you said you were going to get that done. Like, do you need any help on this? And he'd say, yeah, actually, I do need help. And then, Donna would say, hey, I can help you on that. And we get things done. And then people started to ask for help before Thursday. They'd ask for help Tuesday when they couldn't get it done Monday. So again, it really helped. We then went to weekly huddles, which was, so we got into a rhythm of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'd get together for 15 minutes. And then Friday, we'd have an hour meeting. And we'd start off the Friday meeting with a little bit of personal stuff. Hey, what's the best thing and worst thing that happened to you personally? Best thing and worst thing that happened to you professionally this week? To just set the stage so everyone knew, hey, how's everybody else doing? And that was a huge win for culture for us. What I saw is the more people shared, and I had to lead, the more I shared about things that were going bad personally and professionally, the more everybody else shared. And then everybody started to share more and more. We became much more of a cohesive team. As I said, the culture went up. And then we'd spend 45 minutes on strategic issues. We also did monthly meetings. If you read the book, it says, hey, you should do these monthly meetings for 8 hours. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, we got 1,000 things going on. I'm going to take 8 hours a month to do this. So we didn't. We did 4 hours, which I thought was a huge time commitment, but we did it. And we started off again with a personal thing. I'd hand out a sheet of paper. We did it via email, but a sheet of paper. It's like, hey, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on fun, fitness, family, financial, faith, and friends. So everybody would rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. We did this every single month. And you'd say, hey, on family, I'm a 7. I want to get it up to an 8. And that's the one I'm going to focus on this month. And you'd share it with the other 7 or 8 people in your meeting. And somebody asked me, it's like, hey, like, do you really care if, Donna says she's going to exercise 3 days a week? Like, how's that affect you? Like, why you even spend the time on this? And I'm like, well, A, if it's important to her, it's important to me. And B, I want the DNA of the company to be, we set goals, we share our goals, and we achieve goals. And we help each other achieve goals. And I saw that happen. And on the helping, what happened is, it wasn't done. It was somebody else said, hey, I'm going to exercise 3 days a week. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk every Monday, Wednesday, Friday during lunch. And somebody else on the leadership team said, hey, I'll walk with you. And to me, that was the example of, hey, we're becoming a team here. We're trying to help each other hit personal goals. So we did that. And then we'd also, at these monthly meetings, we spent the first, after we did we called it the Wheel of Life, fun, fitness, family, etc. We then did leadership training. And I'm sure, most people who work at large corporations, there's tons of leadership training. But when you're a small company, there's a lot less. So that was something we wanted to do, is like, hey, if we're going to grow the company from $7 to $70 million, if you're going to hire someone to be head of marketing for a $7 million company, they have this much capability. But if you're going to hire someone to be head of marketing for a $70 million company, you're going to hire someone with this much capability. So it's a different person. Well, I didn't want to fire this person. I wanted this person to grow to that person. So we're going to have to train everybody. So most of the leadership training we did was pretty simple stuff. We get an article from Harvard Business Review, are we a growing or a growth company? Everybody would read it. We'd assign somebody, hey, Vicky, you're in charge of leading the discussion, and we'd have a 45-minute discussion on that. And then we'd go tackle 2 or 3 big strategic issues. And Well, the final thing on the monthly is once a month we had a town hall meeting, which for us was the entire company. Now there's like 250 people. They're still doing it. And it was, again, to make sure everybody's aligned. We put up that chart, which I showed earlier about, hey, here's, our top things. They'd all be green, yellow, or red. And then every month we pick another 2 or 3. Hey, give us a 3-minute update on how you're doing on this. And people would give their 3-minute update. So again, everybody knew what was going on. Everybody knew how their work laddered up. We were all aligned. Internal communication was much, much stronger. And then finally, every quarter, I said earlier, we'd have a quarterly planning session in April. May and June, I meet with the department managers. Hey, are you red, green, or yellow? In April, we'd quarterly, and then in June, we'd plan the next one. And we'd have our coach come in, put together a quarterly planning meeting, leadership team first. What are our goals? What does everyone own? They roll it out to their departments. What's each individual going to work on? That rolls up to that. So that's how we did internal communications. And they told me 4 minutes. So we're going to actually talk about culture here for 4 minutes. Then we'll get into training, question and answer, excuse me. So for culture, you've heard before, there's a book out, Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast. I'm not sure if it's an overstatement, but the point is culture is really important. So the first thing you need to do is set your culture. I talked to you about, caring, accountable, positive, proactive caring. Julie calls Uber Eats, gets Lauren the milkshake. That was kind of how we set it. And we really wanted to bring it to life, make it the DNA of our company. So again, I said earlier that, hey, when you work for a large company, I started my career at Procter & Gamble. I worked at Pfizer before starting this. There's a lot of training on how to be a leader. At smaller companies, I started the company, there's 2 people, right? At smaller companies, you train people on how to do their job, not so much leadership. And we decided, hey, we're going to teach people to be better leaders. So one of the first things we did was this thing called Enneagram, which it's like Myers-Briggs or DISC, they're all similar. It's like basically, how are we going to communicate better internally? So if you read this booklet, it tells you, hey, if you're a type X, this is your speaking style, this is your blind spots, this is how you better, talk to a type B, et cetera, et cetera. So we did that. We changed our hiring and firing process. We changed our hiring process where historically, if someone applied for a job or, we met them at the first time, 3/4 of the people made it through the first interview with HR. Once we started doing the Enneagram, setting our culture, half the people made it through. So we took 25% out of the system. Hey, these people are not a good culture fit. So we set it. We trained on it. I talked about these monthly town hall meetings. It was one way to really bring it to life. So at our monthly town hall meetings, the entire company, all 100 people, we'd spend 40 minutes on a business update. 5 minutes, we talk about, hey, it's, Kelly's birthday. It's Vicky's 5-year anniversary. We do that for 5 minutes. Then we spend 15 minutes of a 60-minute meeting. So 25% of the meeting, 15 minutes on, are there any culture award winners this month? So, you could write in, hey, I think Donna should win, for accountability this month. I think Julie should win for caring. And the little story, she bought Lauren a milkshake, Uber Eats, et cetera. And they'd all get read at the town hall meeting by the person nominating them. They'd get a $20 or $25 gift card. And then I'd take it a step further, and there's probably 6, 7, 8 winners a month. I'd write each of them a handwritten thank you note and, hand it to them or mail it to them, depending on where they live, and really kind of bring culture to life. And I started these handwritten notes, and I didn't really realize how big of a deal they were until we hired this lady, Lauren, not the Lauren who got yelled at and got the milkshake, a different Lauren. We hired this lady, Lauren, 22 years old, right out of school, and it was because her father worked at Pfizer. He was a friend of a friend, and, said, hey, can my daughter talk to you about, she wants to go into a career in marketing, talk to her. Next thing you know, we hire her. So I had never met her father, Larry, but again, friend of a friend. So we hire her. 3-4 years later, I meet Larry in a meeting. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you hired my daughter. This is great." I'm like, "You know what? We won in this deal. She's fantastic. We're so happy she's here." We're talking 4 or 5 minutes into the conversation. He's like, "Hey, Scott, you're one of the best leaders I've ever met." I'm like, "Larry, you met me 5 minutes ago. How can you say that?" And he says, "Hey, you don't realize this. When I went over my daughter's house a year ago, on her refrigerator is a letter you wrote her thanking her for doing a good job. And she still has that on her refrigerator, 25-year-old woman." So we really spent a lot of time on culture. So with that, we're going to open it up to questions. And I think, Kelly, you're
Yes, we've got some good ones. And thank you so much, Scott. That was a lot of really great information. I know I have notes that I'm going to incorporate myself, so I can almost guarantee that everyone was able to get something really valuable from this. So Q&A, you can still add them if you want, but we do have some good ones for you. First one, very urgent. Is that Beaver Stadium behind you?
Yes, it is. So I went to, my son went to Penn State. So yes, that is Beaver Stadium.
There you go. We were all dying to know. And that's awesome. All right. Now we've got some really good questions here. First, we've got from Michael. Can you talk about when you realized that you had to let go and empower your employees to grow and its benefit to the company? So can you talk about that moment when that realization kind of hit you?
So it was a light bulb moment. And I talked earlier about, hey, I was a great micromanager. This was really hard. So I had hired a coach, and she's working with me, and and I'm talking to her about, hey, like these people don't get it done. I got to do it myself, etc. And she goes, "Hey, how much stronger do you think you are than your average employee?" And we had like 100 employees at the time. And I'm thinking, this sounds like a loaded question. Like, I think I'm 3 times stronger than most of these people. But if I say that, it's going to sound the opposite of humble, which I don't want to sound. So I'm going to say I'm twice as strong, which doesn't sound humble, but since I was thinking 3 times, it is. So I said, I think I'm twice as strong as the average person. And she goes, "I've met about 25 people at your company. I'd say you're 3 times as strong." And I was like, oh, I kind of like where this conversation is going. Okay, good. Okay, so her name's Leslie. Leslie, let's go with that. 3 times as strong. And she knows I'm like a math guy. I'm really into numbers. She goes, "Hey, do you think it would be smarter for you to do the work of 3 people or to help 100 people each become 10% more effective?" And I'm like, "It'd probably be better to help 100 people each become 10% more effective." And that was the light bulb moment for me. It might not work for you, that, hey, I really need to help everybody else do a job. My name came off the sheet. I'm not accountable for anything. I used to be accountable for 25% of the stuff. I'm not accountable for anything. And I'm going to just help everyone else do their job. So that was the light bulb moment for me. And to Michael's question, I would not say it was easy, but that was when I started doing it. And I struggled a lot because I would ask someone, "Hey, can you do X?" And I was really big on tell them what needs to get done, not how to do it. And when I tell them to do X, the next word out of my mouth wanted to be, "Let me tell you how to do it." I refrained. Sometimes people would tell me how they're going to do it. And I was like, hey, internally, that's a B+ idea how to do it, but I can tell you an A+ way, and I'd have to bite my tongue and let them do it. And what I learned is when they were forced to do it my way, which was the A+ way, I'd get C+ results. When they were allowed to do it their way, which was the A- way, we'd get A results. So I'm like, hey, but that was the start of it. It was kind of the math experiment. So hopefully that answers your question, Michael.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's this empowerment, not only just for yourself as the leader, but all for your employees as well, and following in your lead. So next we've got a question from Mark. Hardest decision to make in scaling your business? Which one? What was it?
It was probably the stuff Michael just talked about, is like letting go. And as we got bigger, I talked about, I was working, 60, 65 hours a week. I was the bottleneck. And what happened every once in a while is people would make decisions without telling me, and they turn out 9 out of 10 times good. And I was like, oh, wow, I don't need to be involved in it. So it was really the whole thing about letting go. So it was the combination of Leslie saying, hey, is it better to do the work of 3 or help 100? And then starting to let go, almost being forced to let go because it was getting too big. I didn't know. And then when I really said, hey, I'm going to delegate a lot, that's when we took off.
That's awesome. And sort of a piggyback into what you're saying, you mentioned a lot of people that you've worked with and how either their influence or what they'd said had helped you in your journey to empower your, everyone on the team. So what would you say what key partnership do you think attributed to your success, if there was just one?
Yeah. So I'd say it was really like the employees and mostly the leadership team. And I think it started with when I talked about, we'd start every meeting off once a week. We'd have a leadership meeting and we'd say, hey, what was the best and worst thing that happened to you personally? What was the best and worst thing that happened to you professionally this week? And I started sharing, hey, I had a fight with my wife, whatever the worst thing was, I started sharing it. Then they started sharing, and we became much more partners in this. And as we became partners, like it helped. So when we first started, I talked about, hey, you're at a big company, there's tons of leadership training. At a small company, there's way, way less. Well, now I can go to everybody and, hey, here's an issue I'm having. Like, what do we do? So I felt like, we were really humming, and I was partners with all them to grow the company. Everybody knew, hey, this was the goal. This is what we're trying to do. If anyone was hired after we set the goals, hey, this is what you're signing up for. Is this what you want to do? Before they even started, here's your scorecard. Here's how you're going to be measured. Is this the type of job you want? So it was really the partnership with all of the employees and specifically the leadership team that helped. There was hundreds of other external ones, but that was the ones, that talked to every single day.
Good stuff, Scott. And, I think making your employees your most important partnership goes to culture, right? And I do think culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I really, really appreciate everything you said. And, during the event, we had a few people in the chat that were asking, how do you apply this to solo and small business? And the truth is the same principles apply. How you execute on them are different. And your partners might be a combination of internal and external. It could be vendors. It could be a whole myriad of different things. So, but Scott, thank you. This was fabulous. I hope everyone, I always say, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. So decide the 1 or 2 things that you're going to take away from this webinar and put into action so that, you too can produce better results. Now, next month, I just dropped into the chat a link to our Business Growth Roundtable next month, where we will be talking about strategic partnerships, and it will be C3 Workplace, Paradigm Marketing, NJBIA, and Delta Dental. So we'll be talking about strategic partners at every size and along the way. Scott, again, thank you. I know your information was on screen, and your information will also be included in the follow-up that everyone will get to this event. So I thank you for joining us, and I want to wish all of you a great day, and I hope that you apply some of what you learned today.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.